All right. So, well, thanks for that introduction. I'm going to talk to you guys today about AI and crypto beyond cliches. And as a kind of a one-liner, we've just got a few one-liners here today. AI makes everything easy to fake. Crypto makes it real again. So, for a talk like this, AI and crypto, they're often paired in a very vague, hand-wavy kind of way. So I just wanted to establish a little bit of background and then go to 10 AI versus crypto comparisons or dyads. So just as background, I'll talk about my background just for a second. Many of you guys know me, I was CTO of Coinbase, general partner at A16Z. But before that, I actually did genomics and robotics and machine learning. In fact, I actually taught stats and neural networks at Stanford in the 2000s. So I have some background in the area, so it's not totally, off the cuff. Everybody here probably knows these tools. I'm just going to level set, but basically ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini 1.5, Perplexity, Midjourney. If you haven't used those, you probably should just to anchor. And if you actually want to get into the technical depth here, I have a few tutorials, that I like at least. Fast.ai, if there's just one tutorial that you do as a crypto dev to get into AI, I would do this. And if you want a little more depth, set up a Hugging Face account, get Mistral and Llama, download those, and you might mess around with data from Farcaster or something else if you want to be a crypto person who's getting into AI. This is just maybe obvious tutorials, but I just want to start with that because it's a mixed audience. With that background, I want to contrast these $2 trillion technologies, crypto and AI. Now, the thing about it is AI kind of came top down. That is to say, it came from prestigious research labs. It came from Google, and then eventually from OpenAI and so on and so forth. Whereas crypto came very bottom up. It came from message boards, and it started with low prestige. And now they're both very large, but they had different emergence modes. And AI always came out of academia, so it's treated more seriously from the beginning. But I do think they're comparable, and I actually think they're dual in many ways. And let me give you 10 examples. So AI versus crypto. First, AI is probabilistic and crypto is deterministic, okay? And what do I mean by that? It's basically something where if you think about diffusion models, or LLMs, on the top, fundamentally, you're starting with a probabilistic model there. And you're basically taking noise and you're getting an image out of it by a stochastic differential equation that you're approximating, or you're predicting the next token. These are probabilistic models. Whereas with crypto, just for example, verifying a digital signature, that's deterministic, right? So they just start from a very different place. And that's one of the reasons they're complementary. Second concept is AI is digital abundance and crypto is digital scarcity. Okay, so whether you think of it as a supplement or a replacement for a writer, an artist, a lawyer, a doctor, many kinds of knowledge workers, AI now makes them abundant. You've got a pretty good lawyer on your phone at any time. They might make mistakes, but so might a real human lawyer. You've got a pretty good doctor on your phone. You've got a pretty good artist, a very good artist on your phone, a pretty good proofreader, and so on and so forth. That has now made certain kinds of knowledge work very, very, very abundant. Okay, so AI is digital abundance. Crypto is digital scarcity. So it's not just, in this example, there's real world assets that are being digitized, but fundamentally a debit and a credit. What Bitcoin represents is a -1 and a +1. Before Bitcoin, we could copy digital objects, but we couldn't transfer them. That is to say, you could copy a file from one place to another, but you couldn't provably show that a debit had been recorded and a credit. The -1 wasn't there in the system, only the copy, right? So what the blockchain represents is the ability to transfer and not simply copy digital assets. And from that -1 and +1, you can model arbitrary amounts of digital scarcity, -100, +100 of not just Bitcoin, but stocks and bonds and gold and whatever else, right? So crypto is digital scarcity. Third point, AI makes things easy to fake, and crypto makes that hard again. So for example, there's this article which was how to spot an AI-generated image. And it's trying to talk about human ways of doing that, like look at the hands or something like that. And that'll work for some amount of time, but eventually probably AI image generators will get good at generating hands and everything else. And there's people who can do mid-journey things right now to make very realistic photos that look like they were taken with an iPhone, including the bad lighting and so on and so forth. And so really what you need is crypto or something like that on the other side to verify the origin of these images. And why does it have to be crypto and not just cryptography broadly? Well, there's something called a public key infrastructure problem. For many years, lots of cryptography papers were written under the assumption that everybody has private keys they keep available and secure at all times. And that was an assumption of a bunch of authentication systems and crypto systems. And crypto's actually solved that by giving an incentive to have those private keys available and secure at all times, which means hundreds of millions of people can now provably authenticate messages, right? And images and so on, because crypto has distributed all these wallets and secured them, right? That's not a trivial problem. That's a multi-billion, multi-trillion-dollar problem. So AI makes things easy to fake. Crypto makes it hard again. You can sign these images, things, with an Ethereum wallet, with another wallet. And that's kind of part of a broader concept of AI generates, crypto authenticates, right? And once you kind of see that, you're like, okay, we actually probably want to have, for example, crypto cameras and crypto instruments in the AI age, because you want to have a trail of provenance, right? You want to have something that shows at least this person and this machine at this time, provably, at least they're asserting that that image came from this machine at this time, and you can see all the people around it and the blockchain timestamp. You may still choose to believe that they synthesized the image and then uploaded it, and then they may have faked it at some point in that supply chain. But at least you can narrow where the fakery could be happening, right? So AI generates and crypto authenticates. Here's another version of that, which is AI busts CAPTCHAs and crypto rebuilds them, okay? So all of the I'm not a robot type things, one of the reasons you're seeing more bots on Twitter, one of the reasons that the previously open web is locking down is that it's become easier and cheaper to bust CAPTCHAs. All the kinds of things we thought only humans could do, AIs can now do. Lots of the crazy, image recognition stuff, lots of training stuff. It's still something that's a little bit of a pain, but every day, the models get better. And so ultimately, what that means is you're going to want to sign in with a Web3 wallet. Now, there's already commercial incentives for doing this. If you go and sign in with Google login or Facebook login, you don't have a balance on a website. That alone is like an obviously missing thing. You have 1 billion people who sign in with Google, but they somehow can't use Google Pay on every site that they sign in on, okay? But if they sign in with Ethereum, they can. They can use their Ethereum balance. That alone is a massive commercial incentive for using Web3 wallets, but now we have another, which is at least that's likely to be, if not a human, at least a scarce thing, right? Something that has a deposit. It is something that is harder to fake than a zillion bot accounts, right? Next, AI proselytizes, crypto verifies it, okay? So AI is amazing at coming up with very compelling seeming text. But what you can do with that text is, if it's referring to anything that's an on-chain event, you can click and see whether that actually happened, right? So, for example, if you talk about the FTX hack, right? This is a concrete example where Perplexity gives links to the blockchain on Etherscan, and you can actually go and see that the events described happened. And that's one step up, by the way, from simply giving a link. It's giving a link to a block explorer. So you can actually run a cryptographic verification on that to see that that event happened at that time, versus a normal URL could just be fake on the other end as well, right? It could be an AI that refers to fake content, that refers to fake content. You're seeing some of the generated AI, unfortunately, for some of Google search results are referring to incorrect things in Google search. So AI proselytizes, crypto verifies it. And you might say, okay, that'll work for the FTX hack. That's just financial data. That's the kind of data that's on-chain. But most kinds of things in humanity don't have on-chain data. I would agree with you, but now we're finally starting to get things like Farcaster, Lens, to some extent Nostr. We're finally starting to get decentralized social media. And what that means is a much larger set of things in the human condition are being put on-chain. Basically, Farcaster alone, anything you can think of, you can post on social media, and a decentralized social media, and you can sign it. And so that results in something that's verifiable, not just financial data, but social data, and really any kind of data that's posted to an account, right? Okay. And this is related to another concept, which is AI breaks the public web, and crypto builds Web3 of trust, right? So AI is filling up the internet with garbage, spam sites, and so on and so forth, right? And one of the fundamental things is you click on a site, you can't tell whether that content was authored by an AI or a human. By contrast, actually, on X or on social media, if you've been following an account for some time, you can tell that it was written by a human, and at least there's some, you know, in a sense, track record, or there's some person that you kind of think you know on the other side of it, versus a total bot. It's a little hard to fake that over a long period of time, still at least, right? And so what crypto does is, if you heard the concept of web of trust, and of course you heard the concept of Web3, put them together, Web3 of trust. What is web of trust? It basically means A, trust that B is a human, and C, trust that B is real, and so on and so forth. It's basically a web of digital signatures and of essentially assertions and certifications and endorsements. And now we can actually put that on chain, again with tools like Farcaster. And so you have a cryptographic web rising, even as AI is killing Web 1, right? So Web 1 didn't have cryptographic authentication of authorship built into it, but Web 3 does. And that's actually something that, again, AI can't easily break that, because it can't fake the cryptography. And just to give you, again, this is concrete. I'm not, you know, you can go down to the protocol level, go to the Farcaster protocol, look at how messages are signed, and try to fake that with AI, and you'll find that you can't do it, or at least you can have a bot that emits content, but it can't pose as somebody, you know, unless you've managed to steal their private keys. Number 8, so AI training is centralized, and crypto might be able to decentralize it, okay? Now, let me be very specific about what I mean by this. If you go, for example, to any list of the largest crowdfundings ever, in yellow are all the ones that are crypto, okay? So most of the largest crowdfundings ever on the internet are crypto crowdfunds. We're talking billions of dollars in some cases, hundreds of millions in many cases. And you know, this is one of those things where, like, if you actually ask, okay, what has crypto actually done? Well, it's disrupted the gold market. Okay, fine, that's a few $1 trillion. It's disrupted international wire transfers. Okay, sure, it's another few $1 trillion. Also crowdfunding, also this, also that. So crowdfunding alone, when you just realize the scale of money that can be moved with crypto, it's actually gigantic amounts of money. And crypto can also, as we've seen with Bitcoin mining, with also you know, all kinds of, not just Bitcoin mining, but Ethereum mining, Filecoin, Chia. There's all kinds of giant data centers that the money that crypto generates has funded the build out of those data centers. So some of the pieces are there for gigantic crowd funds that can potentially decentralize model training. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to be training models in a folding at home kind of way, where you're doing like messages being sent back and forth between CPUs. You need some breakthroughs for that to work, because it's just not efficient enough right now. But at least you could decentralize it in the sense of decentralizing the funding of it, potentially. And this is just something that I think is worth looking at in terms of the dollar values that you can crowdfund with crypto. Number 9, AI evaluation is centralized, and crypto could decentralize that. So again, some of these models are now getting to the point that you can run them on, a Mac Studio or something like that. And if you look at Solana, for example, one of their big things, they did a bunch of things algorithmically, but they also moved to beefy hardware. So you could imagine that at some point these lines cross and it becomes feasible to go and do decentralized model evaluation and to make that something which is a hard to take down model, okay? And what would be an example of something like this? Why would that actually be useful? Well, one of my theses is that there's sort of an instant golden age of AI in a sense that is right now getting attacked very hard with lawfare, okay? So, who doesn't want AI? Lawyers, doctors, artists, writers. A lot of people want to restrict it, and you're going to see, many copyright lawsuits, many attempts to say, oh, a screenwriter can't use AI in their job, sort of like union regulations, which require like only a union worker can pick this up and move this from here to there, that kind of thing, right? And so because of that, that opens a door for Pirate Bay style AI, BitTorrent style AI, right? Sci-Hub and LibGen style AI. Who is going to go and just download every Hollywood movie and train on it and release that model? That's going to be crypto. Who's going to go and download every academic paper and every book off of Sci-Hub and LibGen and go and train on it? That's also going to be crypto. How about every song? Again, crypto, right? There's going to be something where you'll find some jurisdiction in the world that actually does to Hollywood what it did to Edison. Most people don't know this, but there's a great book by Neil Gabler called An Empire of Their Own. Hollywood got started by essentially going to LA and violating all of Edison's patents because he was 3,000 miles away and he couldn't come and catch them. And they basically built the money over there, they fought the lawsuits, and essentially Hollywood arose because Edison couldn't enforce his patents since he was thousands of miles away. So in the same way, you can do to Hollywood what they did to Edison, and you can essentially have a global search, right, to try and find a jurisdiction. Maybe it's India, maybe it's Japan, maybe it's the UAE, maybe it's some ambitious country, maybe it's El Salvador, right, that is willing to say, train on whatever you want, right? That they don't respect Disney copyright law, they don't respect the RAA or MPAA, right? And if you did that, then you'd actually be able to decentralize the power of Hollywood, and everybody around the world would be able to tell their own stories, right? They'd be able to make their own music, make their own movies, and so on and so forth. I do think that's going to happen, and I think that, in particular, as AI censorship, as AI control, as lawfare against existing AIs ramps up, those AIs are going to become more boring. Some people say things like, oh, this is the worst AI will ever be. That's not necessarily true. If you remember the early 2000s, Napster was awesome, and you could just get every song for free. And then, with enough lawfare, they managed to crush that, and they crushed Kazaa, and they crushed a bunch of the other things. And then you got iTunes and Spotify, which have their merits, but they can also yank songs, and you have to pay every month, and so on and so forth. Napster was better. And so I think we're going to start to see attacks on centralized AI to start to limit it in certain ways. And decentralized AI, as a consequence, gains more and more importance. And so that's why I don't think this is simply a theoretical thing talking about decentralized model funding and model evaluation. Last, AI creates new authorities and crypto decentralizes them, right? So a lot of the discourse around AGI and so on and so forth implicitly assumes a so-called, like what I'd call a monotheistic AI, right? A single, all-knowing, vengeful AI that will turn you into paper clips like, God would turn you into a pillar of salt, right? Paper clips rather than salt. And an alternative model is a polytheistic AGI, where everybody has their own superintelligence, okay? Just like you have chess playing bots playing other chess bots. You know, you have Go AIs playing other Go AIs, right? This is, in my view, not just obviously what's going to happen, what's already happening, right? In, you know, in military conflict, you're going to already have AI drones versus other AI drones, right? So a lot of the, I think, concepts around AI, the crypto culture of decentralization changes how people have been thinking about them from a monotheistic to a polytheistic view. So those are just kind of 10 thoughts on how AI and crypto relate. Thank you very much.